Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Ahmed Bukhari, and this session is all about basic guidance about the process that's for undergraduate admission in Pakistan and abroad. We will be having a short session today, and I've been joined here with Miss Aiza. Aiza is my friend from LUMS, and mashallah, she's very, very academically, unka profile, it's amazing, and she's very accomplished, mashallah. She's the founder and CEO of The Sari Girl. Do check it out on Instagram. And she's an anthropologist, she's a researcher, and she's also an entrepreneur. She went to LUMS for anthropology. She studied that there. And she's a Fulbright scholar from University of Chicago. Cultural anthropology के अंदर उनका specialization है. And she has been featured in BBC, Reader's Digest, Arab News, and many more media outlets for her work. She started the Sari Girl as Pakistan's first ever online sari store, pioneered the concept of affordable everyday wear in saris, and I'm really grateful that she's joined us here. And thank you, Aiza. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Shemant, for that very generous introduction. I am very happy to be joining you and excited to meet the students.
And thank you so much for joining us, students. I know we've had some technical difficulties with live stream, but I'll sort them out later. And if you have any questions at any point in time, just feel free to put them in the chat.
Yeah.
And so, Aiza, can you walk me through your experience of applying to colleges when you were applying for undergrad admissions?
So I can imagine that it is a very daunting process. It was for me as well. When you go into A levels, it's a huge jump from O levels to A levels. Ekdam se subjects to आपके 3-4 होते हैं, but like the amount of conduct, the syllabus, the papers, the level it's a huge step that you take. So you're already overwhelmed. So back in the day, back in A levels, I remember that I was very much stressed. I was applying to a lot of colleges. I applied to UCAS के through जो 5 universities होती हैं. I applied to US, a few liberal arts colleges. And I would say that despite that, I had help from my counseling in school. It wasn't adequate because one counselor for 300 children is not a really viable solution to have, but that's the general norm that's followed in schools, and it's not quite resourceful at all. So that was the situation. It was a lot of trial and error. I would suggest that सबसे पहले as a student you need to sit down with yourself, और आपका जो O level से लेकर A levels का summer होता है, बहुत मजा आता है. I understand आपका stress release हुआ होता है कि O levels दे दिए, ठीक है, result अब आ जाएगा जो भी है, but please don't waste that time. This time can they do an internship and at the same time start looking up colleges. Everything is online. Literally anything that the counselor can help you with, you will also be able to look at those things online. So because you need a starting point, you first of all, if you want to go for guidance to anybody, you need to know what you yourself are interested in. आपको कौन सा subject appeal कर रहा है, आपको कौन सी school में, आपको किस region में जाना है, आपको थोड़ा सा like, that's that moment in life where you feel like, okay, it's a door full of opportunity. It's a world full of opportunities. So where exactly do I take it from here? So I would say take a deep dive, do your research, and start in advance. Plan in advance. Nothing ये बिल्कुल वैसे नहीं करना कि A1 में जाकर आपने सोचना शुरू करना. Like ठीक है, that can also work, but it would be much better if you can do a little bit of homework prior to that. दूसरी चीज मैं ये कहूँगी from my experience is that you should target a few schools. Don't really spread yourselves thin and waste your energy and money, because her application, at least अगर आप US applications करते हो, तब तो dollar भी आज से, like this is what, like 10-11 years ago, that was dollar was not the rate at which it is right now. So still, like, it was a little cheaper, but up to it's so expensive. So you really have to be smart, especially if you are looking for financial assistance, if you're looking for scholarships. You need to make sure कि okay, मैंने ये schools target करने हैं. उसके बाद कोई school ऐसा नहीं है कि जहाँ आपको लगे कि मैं नहीं कर सकता. अगर आपकी प्रोफाइल स्ट्रांग है, आपके पास ग्रेड्स हैं, आपके पास आपके को-करिकुलर्स हैं, आपके थोड़ा सा प्रोफेशनल एक्सपीरियंस, इंटर्नशिप्स एक्सेट्रा, सब कुछ है, by all means you should apply. But you should definitely look at the statistics prior to applying. You should see कि इन्होंने intake किस तरह की है. Another very key thing that you should know is that are these schools, if you need to apply for aid, is it need blind? Is it need aware? What is the school? Agar aap financial aid ke liye apply karoge,
Yeah, before
is it
you
going to
delve
put
into
you?
that, can you
Yeah.
explain what need blind and other such terms mean? Because बहुत सारे students को वो नहीं पता होंगे.
बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स को जो नीड ब्लाइंड में बेसिकली होता है कि अगर आप फाइनेंशियल नीड के लिए टिक करते हो ना अपना बॉक्स, तो उसका ये मतलब होगा कि ठीक है, स्कूल को फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा आपने फाइनेंशियल एड के लिए अप्लाई किया या नहीं किया, बट अगर वो स्कूल नीड ब्लाइंड नहीं है तो हो सकता है कि उनको दे पुट यू एट अ डिसएडवांटेज. योर एप्लीकेशन मे बी like 100 times better than the other applicant who has money, but because they have money they will be at an advantage.
So
So
basically,
this is the
need blind
sad reality.
need blind is
Yes,
where your admission process is unaffected by your financial situation,
correct,
right?
correct.
But need aware में और बाकी schools में क्या फर्क होता है?
Need aware में वो वही है कि they if you apply for financial assistance, then they put you into a separate category where the pool is bigger, there's more students and the competition is higher. So automatically you're at a disadvantage as compared to a school where it's need blind and they don't care if you can pay or not. They will look at you equally. So you definitely should check this out, especially when you know that funds are limited, time is limited, energy is limited, because all of these things have to be looked into. आप कहोगे यार कोई मसला नहीं है 20 schools कर लूंगे. I would not recommend you do 20 average applications. Sit down, really work hard on your application and send in a few good ones. So that's my recommendation, especially for US Canadian schools. Target your schools. UCAS वगैरह की applications are a little different. You can automatically apply to 5 schools with the same, like one application. You can tailor it accordingly and apply to 5 schools at once. This is not the case for US and Canada. You need to have different personal statements. You can have like a dummy, you can have a skeleton, you can work around it, but you will need to submit a fresh application for each school, and it is a painstaking process, and you have to put in your full effort for it.
Okay, so a couple of questions that I have, and I've received some from the students as well. Unme, first question is about your academic requirements of these schools, because most of us, they apply to competitive schools. So एक सवाल जो बार बार आता है कि how important it is to have more subjects in O levels and A levels, like more than 8 in O levels or more than 3 or even 4 in A levels. How important is that, and is that really a decisive factor?
From my personal like experience and that of peers around me, I would say that it's not necessarily a decisive factor. Sure, if you want to get 10 subjects and then you have 0 co-curriculars, that's not going to make you stand out. These schools are looking for leaders. They're not looking for just somebody who can memorize and just produce a good result on paper. They need more than that. And are you that person for them? Because all of these Ivy Leagues and these top tier schools, they're well aware of how O-level, A-levels works. They know that there's a strategy to it. They know that past papers karne, grade lana hai, wo karna hai. Everybody else who's also applied to these schools, they also have the same grades. They're all A+ students. They're the cream of their classes. What is it that is going to set you apart from them? That is going to be something that's not well known. Research. If you have projects, your projects will set you apart. That's going to be field work. Something, and Pakistan is literally a gem in this situation because Pakistan में research होती ही नहीं है, बहुत कम research होती है as compared to other places. आपके काम में आपने कुछ ऐसे projects किए हैं, कोई internships किए हैं, social work किया है, sports खेली है, art work किया है, music में कुछ play करते हो, like there's tons of things that you can do, and these add value to your application more so than cramming for an additional subject that may or may not really add value. आपको अपनी एक पर्सनालिटी शो करनी है, पर्सनालिटी सिर्फ आपकी ग्रेड से नहीं होती.
सो बेसिकली अपनी पर्सनल स्ट्रेंथ्स को और अपने पर्सनल इंटरेस्ट को स्टूडेंट्स ने देखना होता है ना, राइट? एंड as you have rightly said, पाकिस्तान में इसकी बहुत गैप है, बहुत ज्यादा. So while there are not that many internship opportunities, that many extracurriculars happening, but we can still do things on our own, right?
Yeah, you can do things on your own, and I would say that if you keep an eye out for things, there's no dearth of internships, because there's a lot of opportunities in social work in the country, and then you can get hands-on experience in that aspect. And then alongside that, you can also, I mean, with school projects, you can do research-based projects. I remember कि मेरे A levels में, I had sociology in A levels, and that's what really opened my eyes to the subject. I was a pure sciences student. मेरे 7 stars, 2 A's थे in my O levels, and this was also at a time which was personally very challenging for me. My father had passed away 2 weeks prior to my O levels. और मुझे कुछ नहीं पता था कि मैं कैसे दूंगी, क्या होगा नहीं होगा, but I managed these grades. I managed them, और उसके बाद मुझे A levels तक, बल्कि मैं lumps भी पहुंच गई, तो लोग मुझसे पूछते थे, wait, aren't you a pure sciences student? ये आपने soft subject क्यों रख लिया, sociology क्यों? And I said, it's not soft subject, it's something that I enjoy, and I think that there's great value in it. So I mean, sharing all of this because एक तो पढ़ाई अपनी जगह होती है, but everybody comes from very different circumstances, and it's important to, when you make an application, it's important to put these things in front of you, कि कि मैंने सिर्फ ये grades produce नहीं किए, मैंने ये grades different challenges के होते हुए ये मैं ये लेकर आई हूँ. Number 1. Number 2, आपके A levels के जो subjects हैं वो they may open doors to things that you may not earlier have thought of. यूजली होता है कि ओ लेवल्स में लोग कहते हैं आपने डॉक्टर बनना है, बिजनेस की साइड पर जाना है या आर्ट्स में, ये 3-4 चीजें होती हैं. दैट्स नॉट द केस. आई वुड स्ट्रांगली रिकमेंड कि आप अपने ए लेवल्स के अंदर, आपके अगर स्कूल ऑफर करता है ट्रायल वीक 1-2 आप लें. आप अपने समर में बैठकर थोड़े से सब्जेक्ट्स की ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग करें. आप अपना करियर पाथ थोड़ा सा, लाइक, यू कैन अप्रिशिएट गाइडेंस, बट लुक एट सब्जेक्ट्स, लुक एट थिंग्स दैट इंटरेस्ट यू, एंड उस तरह से फिर आप अपना जो करियर पाथ बनाओगे वो हमेशा एक आपको स्टिम्युलेट करेगा. Like, you won't get bored of the things that you do. You'll always find something interesting in that. Sorry, I think I steered completely off the question. Can you ask me the question again?
अच्छा, थोड़ा स्पेसिफिकली बात करते हैं यूएस एडमिशन प्रोसेस की.
Yeah.
अगर उसमें आप गाइड कर दें कि स्टेप्स क्या होते हैं और टाइमलाइन क्या होनी चाहिए, दैट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट.
US admission process के लिए specifically, so number 1, आपका जो application cycle है, that is December to January. ठीक है. उसके अंदर आपके SAT is very important to you. आपके personal statements are very important. Your recommendation letters are important. And co-curriculars वगैरह का उनका एक section होता है. These are like the main things that you need. For US applications, I would again say planning in advance. Recommendations, you need to know कि आपके किस टीचर के साथ, आप थोड़ी सी टीचर्स के साथ, स्कूल क्लास साइज अगर बड़े हैं, टीचर्स के साथ थोड़ी सी 1-on-1 आप बनाना शुरू कर दो from beginning of the class. Ask extra questions, go, stay back, present, take up a project, ताकि आपकी recommendation तब टीचर लिखे आपके लिए, तो वो एक थोड़ा सा लिख सके कि उसको आपके just like any other student, you're not just any other student, you're somebody who stands out for them. So recommendations are very important. Personal statement के लिए आपको अपना draft जो है, I would recommend कि आप, ठीक है, इंटरनेट पर बहुत ड्राफ्ट्स अवेलेबल होते हैं, आपने देखना है, आपने देख लो, थोड़ा सा आपको एक आइडिया मिल जाएगा मैंने कैसे लिखना है, but it has no set rule. Everybody's personal statement looks unique and different because everybody's personal experience is distinct to themselves. So personal statement mein what I would recommend is have your draft and then get it reviewed. Reviewing is an essential part of all of this. Get it reviewed. You can get it reviewed by seniors. You can get it reviewed by professionals. Most सबसे बेहतर ये होता है कि if you have somebody who's professionally been looking at this for years, it is always a good thing to, have them have a look at it, tell you how you can make it more cohesive, what you can add to it. आपने एक word limit लिखी होती है, उसमें आपने, कितनी चीजें डालनी होती है, कैसे डालोगे, ये सब एक tools होते हैं जो कि you again starting in advance, and then you can learn these step by step. SAT, oftentimes actually students wonder and really struggle with this, that how are they going to be able to manage their SAT and their A-level subjects, their applications. It's too much, and it is genuinely too much. So again, if you start in the summer, you take a kickstart, it'll be easier for you. You'll have more clarity. You'll have a little bit of a short list. Aapke SAT, usually if you give it earlier and get it out of your way, that's much better. Schools के पास option होती है, some schools के आपने पहले अपनी application भेज दी है, SAT score के लिए आपके पास 2 हफ्ते और हैं, 4 हफ्ते और हैं. Some schools have that. You can opt for that
आप
option
ये
also,
कह रही
but
हैं कि
I would,
दिसंबर में once you have applied उसके बाद भी you have time to apply for
in some
SAT
schools,
अगर आपका score
in
अच्छा नहीं
some schools they,
है.
in
LUMS for
some schools it's
example,
only,
LUMS
हाँ,
accepts the March results, right?
yeah,
हाँ, so
yeah.
even though उनकी deadline पहले होती है.
Yeah, but I think US में थोड़ा सा इससे इसकी डेडलाइन थोड़ी सी टाइट होती है ज़्यादा. तो I would recommend कि आप SAT अगर आपने अपना एप्लीकेशन दिसंबर में सबमिट करनी है तो आप SAT उससे पहले ही इसको देखकर आउट ऑफ द पिक्चर आप कर लें अपना SAT. क्योंकि A1 में at some point आप SAT देकर फारिग हो जाएं तो that would be the best thing that you can do.
How important is it to repeat your SAT? Because बहुत सारे students इस तरह they go into SAT thinking that they have to do at least 2 attempts.
That's not necessary at all. If you get a good score in your first time, that's fine. Also for SAT, if you're applying for, let's say, a writing intensive program, then your English score will matter more than your math score. So these are things that you should keep in mind. If in the second attempt, let's say you first scored better in one section and now you're scoring better in the other section, some schools also, you have to look at the way that the school evaluates. Some schools look at your highest result in both attempts. They won't, it's not necessary आप दोनों attempts भी submit कर सकते हो. It depends from school to school. I would say personally, like there's people who do improve in first, second attempts, but again, it's so much of like a money drain that it's just better that you prepare for it and then give it. बहुत ज़्यादा फर्क कभी कभार कुछ स्टूडेंट्स के लिए पड़ जाता है. More or less इतना ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ता. It's a standardized test. So I would say just give it once. It's not going to make a world of a difference unless you are 100% sure कि मैंने इस बार तो बहुत तैयारी अच्छी की है. मेरे टेस्ट जो मैंने टेस्ट भी दिए रिव्यूज किए उसके अंदर भी मेरे स्कोर्स बहुत बेहतर आ रहे हैं. So I should give it again. So be your own judge in this matter, but don't give in to peer pressure. बिल्कुल भी ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है कि आपने इसको दोबारा 2 दफा देना है या 3 दफा देना है. There's no rule like that.
How important ये question आया है कि how important is it to have a theme for your application? I know most of these schools they are looking for a holistic application process. So how important is to focus on one kind of extracurricular activities for the 4 years of your high school rather than having a more diversified experience?
Okay, so what these schools are looking for, if they have a theme, they're actually looking for what you're excelling in. They don't want to know कि मैंने grade 5 में फुटबॉल खेली थी, मैंने grade 9 में एक इंटर स्कूल राइटिंग कंपटीशन में पार्टिसिपेट किया था. आपने तो अपनी CV ऑलरेडी एक रेज्यूमे का मोस्ट स्कूल्स में सेक्शन होता है, यू कैन सबमिट एडिशनल डॉक्यूमेंट्स, यू कैन सबमिट योर रेज्यूमे. आपने जहाँ जहाँ पार्टिसिपेट किया हुआ है ना, वो उनके बाकी भी हजारों एप्लीकेंट्स ने पार्टिसिपेट जरूर किया होगा. किस चीज में आप स्टैंड आउट करते हैं? व्हाट मेक्स यू डिफरेंट? व्हाट आर यू लाइक द लीडर इन? That is what you have to focus on. That could be one thing, that could be 2 things, and then you weave things accordingly. Usually जो themes वगैरह वो announce करते हैं, they are just, they mimic one another. They're phrased differently, they follow a similar kind of background. You can weave in your story into that theme quite easily.
So
yeah.
इससे कता ताल्लुक है किसी स्कूल ने क्या थीम किया हुआ है. Let's suppose a student is in grade 9 and they're planning to go for a very good school, let's say. और वो सोचते हैं कि मैं 4 साल सिर्फ MUN करूंगा या करूंगी. और एक स्टूडेंट है वो कहते हैं कि आई एम जस्ट गोइंग टू गो इनटू रोबोटिक्स बिकॉज मैं MIT अप्लाई कर रहा हूँ. So while for technical fields like engineering and medicine, it is important to focus on whatever your field is. अगर बाकी एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर एक्टिविटीज में कोई फोकस करता है एंड दे एक्सेल इन मल्टीपल वंस, और इवन इफ दे डोंट एक्सेल, अगर वो सिर्फ पार्टिसिपेट ही बहुत ज्यादा में करते हैं टू गेट एक्सपोजर, डू यू थिंक दैट इज स्टिल अ गुड स्ट्रेटजी रादर देन कि नहीं आप अगर अचीव नहीं कर रहे तो आप पार्टिसिपेट भी नहीं करें?
Okay, so these are 2, I mean, अगर आपने एक आईवी लीग स्कूल की स्ट्रैटेजी फॉलो करनी है, उनके हिसाब से चलना है, तो उनको दे आर कल्टिवेटिंग वर्ल्ड लीडर्स. दे हैव एन इमेज दैट दे लिव अप टू कि हमारे पास बंदा आता है और फिर जी वो आगे प्रेसिडेंट, प्राइम मिनिस्टर, UN, फलाना ढमकाना, देयर ऑल ऑफ दोस. So they try to bring in that kind of segment of the population. So I would say that to gain exposure, definitely you should dedicate maybe a year, a couple of years, 3 years, whatever. But उसमें से एक चीज जो आपको लग रहा है कि this is really standing out for me, this is something I'm enjoying, I think that there is a future in this, you should pursue that. जो चीज आप enjoy करते हो ना, उसमें eventually you also, this is what I've experienced. Somebody else's, maybe Emma's experience is different, other people's experience could be different. You do eventually end up excelling at that. So it's very important for you to see what really drives that spark in you. And for that, सबसे पहले you can't know for sure. You're not born with this knowledge. You have to explore. So my recommendation would be that take some time, explore, see what works for you, and then focus on that. But it's important, I would say that definitely it's important to have some degree of focus, because to craft an application, it does help कि आपने एक student के एक direction बनी हुई है, and they're not, just all over the place. They have picked a path, and there's cohesion in that path.
So Pakistani situation में हमें obviously there a very big concern is lack of financial aid for international applicants or scholarship opportunities.
Yeah.
और एक बहुत this is more like a two-pronged question. One is कि where can the student look for these financial aid or scholarship opportunities apart from just the Ivy League schools, because वो तो बहुत ज़्यादा competitive है. Secondly, considering the rupee depreciation, would it be better to not consider US or Canada or UK and consider cheaper schools or more affordable schools like in Turkey or Eastern Europe, or maybe पाकिस्तान में ही आप बैचलर्स कर लें, क्योंकि बहुत ज़्यादा पेरेंट्स ये सोचते हैं कि बैचलर्स पाकिस्तान से करो, मास्टर्स के लिए बाहर चले जाना. सो इन दोनों सवालों पे आपका क्या पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है?
अच्छा, पहले तो ये कि US, Europe, US, UK, definitely one of the most expensive places for you to be looking for schools. Turkey is an option, but Turkey ki, I would say the rigor that they give, because I've done an exchange semester in Istanbul during my time at LAMS. I went to Koç University for a semester. I aced both the courses, and I didn't study. I didn't study like I used to study in LAMS, because मुझे वो courses हलवा लग रहे थे.
वो तो यूएस में भी हो जाता है, यहाँ पे भी पढ़ाई पाकिस्तान से तो बहुत आसान है.
हाँ, रिगर जो मुझे लम्स में मिला है, जिस तरह से मैंने वहाँ ग्रेड्स लिए हैं, वो मुझे ग्रेड्स कहीं भी ना, मुझे शिकागो में उतनी मेहनत करनी पड़ी थी, ना मुझे उधर करनी पड़ी थी कोच में तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं करनी पड़ी थी. सो यू शुड नो what you're stepping into. Turkey वगैरह में they have a lot of, because of political ties between our countries, there's a lot of generous scholarships that are offered. So those you can keep your eye out for. I would suggest that there's two ways. एक तो ये कि you sit down and do Google searches, but then you never know what's legitimate, what's not, who you can ask. Then it's advisable for you to come to a counselor. These could be you can start off with your school, थोड़ा सा उनसे basic knowledge आपको मिल सकती है, and then you can go off and see like smaller counseling places, bigger counseling places, whatever suits your budget. Given अगर आपने internationally apply करना और आपके पास help नहीं है, बाकी ये कि you can ask around seniors, etc. Just see what's worked for people. एक तरह से नेटवर्क जो आपका होता है स्कूल के नेटवर्क को, उसको एक्सप्लोर करो कि अगर पिछले साल मेरी इतने लोगों की एप्लीकेशंस एक्सेप्ट हुई थी, यहाँ गए थे, कितनों को स्कूल ने ऑफन टाइम्स अपने बोर्ड पर डाला होता है कि उसको इतने परसेंटेज स्कॉलरशिप मिली, फुल मिली, हाफ मिली, व्हाटएवर. तो उसके उन स्कॉलरशिप्स के बारे में भी यू कैन डू सर्चेस. इन टर्म्स ऑफ cheaper options, definitely there's some brilliant schools. बहुत सारे schools के UAE campuses हैं, Qatar campuses हैं, US schools के, उनकी भी scholarship programs होते हैं. बहुत सारे schools ऐसे हैं, Malaysia में schools हैं, Singapore में schools हैं, and these are spectacular. The Far East is doing amazing in so many ways, in terms of job markets, in terms of taking in people from our part of the world. So you should definitely look at these opportunities. In terms of like thinking of a future, वो आपके like US में तो ठीक है, आपके if you have the means, perhaps you can go for it, but oftentimes students इसी चीज पर फंस जाते हैं कि it's too expensive, we can't afford it until we get a scholarship. और scholarship बहुत कम लोगों को eventually मिलती होती है, like we've seen. But definitely you should approach other schools. उसमें ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता कि वो it's not as well known or whatever. Doesn't matter. हमें आपको कितना पता हो जाता है in your 15-16 years of your life. It's not like you are aware of all of the schools or what schools hold what value. ये तो एक professional को ज़्यादा बेहतर पता है, या somebody who's been in this domain. So I would highly recommend that you look at other options, and I would also say you can spread yourself out. You can say, let's say मैंने 10 schools में apply करना है, उसमें से मैंने US में से मैंने ये 3 target करने हैं, बाकी मैंने सिंगापुर का टारगेट करना है, मैंने maybe Japan. Like you can look at places. These are incredible schools. Like NYU, for example. When I applied to NYU, I got into NYU in New York. मैंने NYU जब मैं अप्लाई करी थी, मुझे पता नहीं था कि उसी सेम एप्लीकेशन से मैं NYU अबू धाबी भी सिर्फ टिक करना होता है. So I tailored my whole application according to New York कि मुझे न्यूयॉर्क में ये और वो फलाना. तो जाहिर बात तो अबू धाबी वाले को पता लग गया था कि this girl wants to go into the New York campus. But yeah, so there's these like options for you to apply. एक एप्लीकेशन से दो तीन स्कूल्स में. NYU का शंघाई कैंपस भी है. इस तरह सिमिलरली कार्नेगी मेलन है जो कि कतर दोहा में बेस्ड है. कार्नेगी मेलन का ओरिजिनल स्कूल जो है वो US में है. सो दीज आर ग्रेट ऑप्शंस. आपको डिग्री वो मिलती है, आपको एक्सपोजर वो मिलता है, आपको स्कॉलरशिप्स भी बेहतर मिल जाती हैं ऑफन टाइम्स
Also,
एट
इंटर-स्कूल
these
ट्रांसफर भी आप
places.
कर सकते हैं बाद में, है ना?
Exactly. You can do exchange semesters also. I know people जो NYU Abu Dhabi में जो गए थे, कहते थे हम हर साल, because उनकी partnerships होती हैं इतने international schools के साथ, हम हर semester कोई project के लिए कहीं ना कहीं we used to go. It gives you so much excitement. वो आपको US में एक जगह जाकर ना मिले, running out of time sadly.
So what I'm hearing from this is एक ये कि हम थोड़ा सा
Okay.
क्लासेस हाफ फुल वाला पर्सपेक्टिव ले लें कि अमेरिका तो हम अप्लाई नहीं कर सकते, ठीक है, तो फायदा ही नहीं है उसका क्योंकि वो बहुत कंपेटिटिव है और बहुत महंगा है. एंड ऑन द अदर हैंड यू कैन आल्सो लुक एट इट इन अ मोर पॉजिटिव पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू के बहुत सी ऑप्शन है. सो इट्स नॉट कि अगर आपके पास खुदा ना खास्ता you are low on budget and there is nothing wrong with that. Everybody has their own situation. So there are still options, right? बिल्कुल
Yes.
hopeless situation नहीं है. So there's
बिल्कुल
many options in Germany, Scandinavia, Japan, China, as you said.
Yeah.
So that's a
Yeah.
good thing. But
Yeah.
it would be wise to, one, if the student has the like time and capacity to explore, then of course that's good. अगर वो नहीं है, reaching out to seniors, reaching out to people who are already studying there. बहुत से lumps के students होते हैं, जैसे आप LinkedIn पे उन्हें सर्च करो, आप पाकिस्तानी स्टूडेंट्स इन यूएस, पाकिस्तानी स्टूडेंट्स इन जर्मनी, इसका फेसबुक ग्रुप होता है. यू कैन जस्ट गो एंड जॉइन देयर एंड सीक योर आंसर्स टू योर क्वेश्चंस. तो वन थिंग दैट आई हैव सीन, एंड आई थिंक आयजा विल आल्सो एग्री विद दैट, इज के जो लोग बाहर पढ़ने जाते हैं ना, मोस्ट ऑफ देम आर एक्सट्रीमली हेल्पफुल इफ यू रीच आउट टू देम and you ask them for help with your admission process, with guidance. वीजा बहुत एक बड़ा सवाल होता है बहुत से स्टूडेंट्स के लिए कि वीजा मिलेगा. ऐसा होता है कि वीजा ना मिलने की वजह से आप एडमिशन नहीं कर सकते. फॉर एग्जांपल मेरे साथ तो हुआ कि मेरा कैम्ब्रिज में एडमिशन हुआ और वीजा रिजेक्ट हो गया. बट हाउ कॉमन इज दैट, या मेरी अकेले की किस्मत खराब है?
वैसे मैं आई थिंक होता, मैंने बहुत कम को सुना है इस तरह से कि वीजा ही सुना है, बट इतना ज्यादा नहीं सुना. शायद वो लोग नहीं जो जा पाते फिर वो बोलते नहीं होंगे. बट मेरे गिर्द के सम वन वे और अनदर वो फिर डेफर करा लिया, आपने कुछ हाइब्रिड स्टार्ट कर लिया, इस तरह के भी ऑप्शंस लोग फिर कर लेते हैं. बट वीजा के लिए डेफिनेटली आई थिंक कि वो उसका भी यही है कि एडमिशन एक चीज है, उसके बाद वीजा प्रोसेस इज अ सेपरेट थिंग. बट मोस्टली स्टूडेंट वीजास मिल जाते हैं.
या अमेरिका में तो खास तौर पे स्टूडेंट वीजास मिल जाते हैं.
हाँ, मिल जाते हैं.
बट उसमें सर्वाइवर बायस भी है ना, जिसको मिल जाता है वो कहता है कि मिल जाता है, जिसको नहीं मिलता.
हाँ, ये तो है.
I want to like delineate a timeline for our students. Let's suppose we have a student who's just starting with O levels. They have this year or maybe even grade 10 to explore their subjects, to explore their PCAs, वो जो भी उनके इंटरेस्ट है वो एक्सप्लोर करें उसको. उसके बाद what are the key steps that they should be doing, or what is kind of like a checklist कि अच्छा इस टाइम तक ये आपने कर लेना है by the time you're ready in your A2?
Grade 10 I would differ from you a little bit on this. I don't think that one in O levels, co-curricular wise, sure, you have the chance to explore. But in terms of subjects, I think one really gets the options in A levels, because O levels में भी बहुत देसी कल्चर ऐसे बना हुआ है कि पेरेंट्स से साइंसेस पढ़नी है, ये करना है, वो करना है. आपको बड़ा एक वो होता है कि O levels है, माय गॉड, इस साल 2 देने हैं, 3 देने हैं, फिर अगले 5-6 देने हैं. जब आप उस चीज में से निकलते हो, आई वुड से सबसे पहले आप फॉर योर ग्रेड 10-11, ठीक है, गिव योर O levels, participate in co-curriculars, okay, and see what works for you. Take that time. Then in A level, in the summer between O level and A levels, do an internship or 2, join a debates camp, see what works for you. So you're exploring your interests. Then in that same summer, because you have like 3 months off, take some time, just do researches on what schools, what interests you, what the subject is. Once A level starts, take some trial classes. sit in a class for a week or so, and then finalize your courses. This will open your eyes to a lot of new things. Because we're still learning, it doesn't seem wise for you to close your options at that stage, and then pick your subject. And then uske baad फिर आप अपना subject के साथ करो, और SAT को you get that out of the way in A1. Once you're done with that, that's ideal. A2 के summer में फिर आप अपनी applications को full proper focus के साथ, like उस A1 के A2 के जो summer है उसके अंदर, you know, okay, this is what I've done already. This is what I was looking at. This is, my growth in this subject, my growth in this extracurricular. This is how I can move forward with those things. So that would be the way that I would plan it in a very ideal situation. Agar aap pehle se poor planning start kar do, to this is my recommendation to students.
A question that I've received is कि how important is ED or early restrictive action जो होता है कि because it's a legally binding agreement. So do we still go for it या इसको avoid करें? Although मैं तो नहीं समझता.
अगर आपका target school है, आपकी application strong है, US में you already know कि competition किस तरह से है, go for it. Do an early decision. Pick a school and do it.
क्योंकि उसका फायदा ये होता है ना, you have smaller pool of candidates.
Exactly.
ठीक है, वो competitive भी उतना ही ज़्यादा होता है. But if you get in, तो इससे अच्छा क्या है? You don't have to go through the trouble of all of that.
Exactly.
ED
It would be
results
like
कब तक आ
chill हो
जाते हैं?
जाओगे आप, आपके स्ट्रेस कितना कम हो जाएगा. आपको US में तो इतने लोग होते हैं जिनकी अगर हो जाती है, फिर उनका it doesn't matter उनके A levels में grades क्या आ रहे नहीं आ रहे, लोग बिल्कुल chill माहौल A2 अपना enjoy कर रहे होते हैं. तो definitely early decision, देखो early decision तब भी ले पाएंगे ना जब आप summer में अपना काम, अपना homework करेंगे. वरना early decision अक्टूबर में आप किस तरह से उसको दे सकेंगे. So you should definitely plan in advance and submit in advance. Early decision को I don't think you should let it go. It's a good opportunity.
ऐसा होता है कि लेट्स सपोज किसी स्टूडेंट ने ईडी कर लिया और उनका एक्सेप्टेंस भी आ गई, बट द फाइनेंशियल अरेंजमेंट इज सच कि वो अफोर्ड नहीं कर पा रहे. व्हाट हैपेंस इन सच अ सिचुएशन?
In situations where financial, नहीं, अगर वो अफोर्ड नहीं कर पा रहे तो वो डिसीजन, ऑफ कोर्स व्हेन दे गेट इट, तो फिर उसको पैकेज इवैल्यूएट करेंगे ना, if they want to accept that decision or not. So you hear back from the university. Yeah. You hear back from the university, they give you a package. If that package works for you, great. If it doesn't work for you, then.
अच्छा, अंडरग्रेड में रोलिंग एडमिशंस का कॉन्सेप्ट होता है?
Rolling admissions का concept in undergrad, I think European schools में होता है. I can't remember very clearly right now, but there's a few schools in masters etc. It's pretty common, but undergrad में not in US so much. I could be wrong, but जितना मुझे जहाँ तक I know.
For example, you went for exchange program in your undergrad, and अभी जैसे इस साल बहुत से मेरे LGS के स्टूडेंट थे, वो हार्वर्ड समर स्कूल के लिए आए हुए थे, and I saw कि उनको कितना ज़्यादा exposure मिला, and it was like an experience of a lifetime for many of those students. So do you think going for these kind of options is a good strategy, or is it just something कि हो रहा है तो ठीक है, नहीं हो रहा तो बस सही है, कोई मसला नहीं है?
Exchange programs.
Exchange programs.
If you can afford them.
Summer schools वगैरह.
If you can afford them, definitely. If you can afford them, definitely go for them. आपकी देखो everything. Yes, at that time of your lives, आपको लगता है everything is your college application. Fine, you put your heart and soul into it. Fine. Some things are very important for personal growth also. अगर आपका let's say आप करते हो नहीं भी होता, आपने एक summer school का experience लिया होता है, the person you go into that summer school is not the same person that comes out. You learn so much from people. You learn to be with yourself, with new folks. You gain so much knowledge inside and outside the classroom. So definitely summer schools, आपको अगर option मिलती है, तो I would say avail that. आपको exchange semester की option मिलती है, avail that. It also undergrad के बाद, it's also something that looks good on your CV. Your high school exchange वाली चीज will look good on your college application. Your undergrad exchange will look good on your job application.
Thank you so much, Aiza. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for answering all these questions patiently. Inshallah, I hope to see you again someday.
Inshallah.
And
thank you so much, Emma. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope this was useful for the students, and I wish everybody best of luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.